are you optimistic about sort of the education, sort of bureaucracy or the academic portion of the education sort of reforming itself and accepting your ideas, or is this something
Oh
that's
no,
beyond hope?
not at all. No. Look, uh, the whole system. I mean, we should. I take care to say this all the time. Um, Anything having to do with competitive admissions is talking about a small set of people. I talk about the SAT all the time and how the argument against it is totally bogus, and it is. But you got to understand, like the vast majority of colleges are not competitive in any meaningful sense, and in fact are constantly looking for more enrollment. They're actively beating the bushes for more students so they can pay the bills. Including Brooklyn College, including the CUNY colleges that I was working for. But then you have, the elite schools. It's less than 30% of schools reject more students than they accept for one sort of thing. But those schools, they want students who are going to have parents who can donate now or will become wealthy donors in the future. Again, in either case, the easiest way to do that is to select for kids whose parents are already wealthy. It's not a particularly big secret within those schools. Academic rigor outside of places like Caltech and MIT and Rensselaer or whatever, those academic rigor has always been sort of a fig leaf. A school like Harvard will sort of cream off 10 or 20% of their entering class who really are unusually academically gifted. And then the rest is made up of potential donors. That's true of their affirmative action programs. They go and they find, a kid whose Nigerian dad owns a mining company and he moved here 2 years before the kid was born. And that kid is their supposed affirmative action slot, diversity slot. They're not going into the inner cities and pulling out black kids to sort of poor black kids to hand them things. Sorry to bust anyone's illusions. The system is broken, and I think that there's going to be, the enrollments have been going down because there's a population bust, and I think sooner or later there's going to be some sort of a major shakeup. It's likely that I think that there's a very decent chance that outside of the most elite institutions, tenure will no longer exist within my lifetime. I think that's a very likely outcome. And unfortunately, what they won't do is eliminate these immense bureaucracies that are just sucking up every dollar that you could imagine. I don't have good hopes for academia.
Yeah, but you said the tenure is going to be getting rid of. Do you think that they're going to sort of be victims of their own sort of failures? I mean, do you see the culture going in a way where, I think, I feel like the prestige of a university degree has sort of peaked. I think that, if there was a poll about you ask Republicans, even 5-6 years ago, they would say universities do more good than bad, right? And now that's completely switched. And I think, is there a point we're getting where, look, Harvard will always be more prestigious than not going to college, but where the marginal university degree or the marginal master's degree might actually be seen as a negative, at least in certain parts of the country or in certain communities? Do you think we might get there?
Sure, that's definitely possible. I mean, one thing we should point out is so there was Briggs is a famous Supreme Court case that outlawed certain kinds of ways in which, on racial justice grounds, racial equality grounds, outlawed certain kinds of tests that employers could implement in order to let people in as employees. And part of the reason why college became such a sort of dominant mode through which white collar work employers hired people was because it was a way to circumvent Briggs, right? I can't give my potential employee a SAT test, but the local state university can, and it became it just became a screening mechanism in that sense. But Briggs has been sort of whittled away by later cases for a very long time. It functionally doesn't provide much of a protection anymore. And now also with sort of digital surveillance of any candidate where, a potential employer can look online and find out tons of things about a person. It's just less salient sort of now. And so there's just less reason for them to need that sort of screening mechanism.
Yeah.
I think college is always going to exist. I think it would be far healthier if instead of, instead of setting a goal of, half the population having a college degree, which we're not close to yet, but if we set a goal for maybe a quarter, that would be a healthier system and have the degree actually mean something. I present a lot of different options for ways we could go in the book, but unfortunately, the faculty have tied their own hands because they're becoming more and more addicted to um, opposition to assessment for its own sake. Right, like
Mhm.
I can't express to you how much sentiment there was when I was in grad school and when I worked in CUNY. Like grading is the hand of oppression. We shouldn't sort good or bad. Who's to say what I don't. Students can put hand in everything late as much as they want. I give everyone an A. All these things are sort of tearing down the system through which you say who is good and bad. They don't seem to understand like that is the function that society is paying for, right?
Yeah.
I mean, higher education in this country, accounts for a few percent of GDP, right? Which is like a lot of fucking money, and uh, we will stop paying that money if it's not fulfilling this function that the sort of capitalist system wants it to do, which is to sort good from bad and create a hierarchy and a ranking for hiring. And they think that they can get rid of that and they'll continue to be funded just on the basis of like, learning is for everyone. And I think they're in for a rude awakening.
Yeah, that's crazy what you say about the education department. So I got my PhD in political science just in 2018. So I was teaching at UCLA, and there was, I mean, it was mostly liberal and a liberal school, but there was none of this. Oh, you could hand in your paper whatever you wanted. There, we had grades, and we had to go easy on them, and I would just I would let things slide. But there was still at least the pretense of you have exams and you have assessment, and the question is right or wrong, and you have to turn in your paper on time. It sounds like that's not all of academia. It sounds like it's just education has gone maybe in a
Well,
few
but it's
other fields
also,
gone completely crazy.
I mean, the dilemma is if you don't ease up on the graduation requirements, if you don't ease up on the sort of putting all these hurdles in the way of them, then the schools are going to sort of cease to function because the fastest growing expense in higher education is remediation,
Mm.
particularly in community colleges and sort of open enrollment universities, sort of low competitiveness state schools and private schools. They're just there's just skyrocketing amounts of money being put into remediation because you're pushing more and more kids through the high school pipeline who shouldn't actually graduate, who do, right? Because again, the policy apparatus put immense pressure on the schools and the districts. You got to get these kids graduated. So they did. Now these kids are graduating. They have no skills. They show up at college. Now the buck has been passed further down. So your dilemma is I can spend a ton of money to remediate them. And for the record, a lot of remediation stuff doesn't work anyway. Or I can just let them through, give them the degree, put them out onto
Mm.
the market, and
Yeah.
hope that the employers don't eventually realize, oh, right, this degree doesn't mean anything anymore. These kids can't do anything.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think, yeah. There's something there, and just they're discrediting themselves. I think the cultural stuff, there's them being so clearly identified, sort of with a certain part of the country. I think that's also bad for them in the long run, and we'll see what happens. Hopefully they decline. I don't know how or if it'll happen, but I think that we share that no matter what other difference we share, sort of disillusionment with sort of the education industry.